Hey man, have you seen The Mandalorian yet?
No, I haven't seen it, no. It looks pretty crap, to be honest.
What?
Yeah, well, I just think that Star Wars in general is quite boring, overrated, and I just don't get the hype. Why are you looking at me like that?
It's treason, then.
Oh, yes.
What are you doing? You will like Star Wars! But I told you, I don't like Star Wars. You will! What the hell? Never! You will! Oh, sorry man, sorry. I got a bit too excited there, sorry. We said no hitting! Oh, Jesus. No, I'm done. Where are you going? Shopping. Can you get me some Doritos, please? No. You ready for me yet?
No, we're finished.
Oh. Okay.
Hello you lovely people, welcome to my channel. I am Blade Drummer, and after my horrific display of darts last week, things are back to normal again and I'm here to give you another review. So let's get to it. Here we go guys, The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian shows the travels of a lone bounty hunter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. This was set after the Return of the Jedi and about 25 years before The Force Awakens. Upon taking different jobs from his guild, the Mandalorian receives one job that will take him on a journey that he will never forget. This show didn't have any particularly huge names. One of the bigger names that I can think of is Pedro Pascal, who is the Mandalorian, who was in Narcos and Game of Thrones and The Kingsman. Another one you may know is Gina Carano, who is in Fast and Furious 6 and Deadpool. There are a couple of cameos in this show that were actually quite a nice surprise. Richard Ayoade voices a robot and his voice is so distinct that I just got it just like that. And another one is Bert, the geologist from The Big Bang Theory, and he is literally right at the beginning of the show. Didn't quite recognise him at first, but I got there in the end, and I'm sure you will too. I really enjoyed the story of this, and it does set up things nicely for later episodes. It does a great job at setting up the characters, motivations, the world and the atmosphere. It really does make us care about the characters with very little exposition, which is no small feat. The mercenary droid in particular is awesome and one of my favourite characters of the show. Mandalorian himself is such a cool character. He's a hardened, weather-beaten guy and we could never imagine what he's been through in the past. I loved the action in this show. It was well thought out, very well choreographed and actually quite vicious at times. So it's Disney, so naturally they're very good at combining seriousness with comedy and they balance that very well. One thing that really piqued my interest was the fact that there's 6 directors working on this show. This show was written by Jon Favreau, and if you don't know who that is, he was the guy who started off the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe by directing the first Iron Man film. Jon did direct the first episode of Mandalorian, and then the other 5 directors came in and then they all had their episodes to direct themselves. Now I was a bit concerned when I read there were going to be different directors on this show. As you know the saying, too many cooks spoil the broth, and that has been the case with films in the past. Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. Oh geez, that was a bad one, excuse me. But they managed to pull it off with flying colours. The great thing is the directors all had different perspectives, but it was on the same vision. So they didn't, stray too far from the original story that was intended. They all just brought their own ideas and it worked so well. One thing that did surprise me was after I watched episode 4, I saw that it was Bryce Dallas Howard was one of those directors. And it surprised me because I'd only seen her acting in films. I'd never seen her be a director of any of them. So I guess this was quite new for her and a new challenge. But my God, did she do such a great job, especially on this episode, which was actually one of my favourites. And for the final episode of the show, they brought in Taika Waititi, and I can't say I'm surprised because he did such an amazing job with Thor Ragnarok. And I'd probably say it was the best episode of the show, which I can't say I'm surprised at. I'm glad that someone like David Filoni was on there, who, if you don't know who that is, he actually is involved with the animated version of The Last Airbender and The Clone Wars as well. And he did a brilliant job at both because they're both great animated shows, which I would highly recommend going to check out. He did direct one episode of The Mandalorian, and also he's such a massive fan of Star Wars that he brings his passion to every single episode and helps everyone out just to make sure that it stays true to the Star Wars theme. There is one character in The Mandalorian that, even if you haven't seen it, you know who it is, and that's Baby Yoda. I can see why so many people love him. He's absolutely adorable, and you just want one for yourself, basically. The cinematography is stunning and equal to that of any of the Star Wars films. The score for the show was brilliant and an instant classic. I thought that Pedro Pascal was brilliant, and I think that he's really outdone himself this time. One thing that I love about The Mandalorian is, yes, he comes across as this hardened, skilled fighter and is known to be one of the best around. However, sometimes in some of the films and TV shows, they do show the protagonist to be someone who is almost too good and too skilled, and there's no threat. You don't worry that anything's going to happen to them. You just kind of let them get on with it, and you're just like, oh, okay, cool. So he's awesome, and yes, the fighting was great, but there was no worry. And I feel that you need to have that as well to add the intensity to any kind of action scene. And that's what The Mandalorian did, because no matter how trained this guy is or skilled, he still gets overwhelmed. He still needs help from friends, in which case he would otherwise die. And it really brings that intensity to any of the action scenes that he's involved in. The only one thing that I would nitpick at is I feel like the episodes are a bit too short. But then when I read the comments from Jon Favreau himself saying that they pretty much shot this as a whole film and then they just chopped it into pieces, it kind of makes sense. I guess just being a fan, I just wanted to see more of every episode, but then again, who doesn't? So, to summarise, after Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, there were so many fans that had started to lose faith in the whole Star Wars universe and Disney itself, so they really needed to do something to bring them back, and I thought this definitely did that 100% in style. It's action-packed, it's expertly crafted, and it is a welcome addition to the Star Wars universe. I cannot wait for Season 2. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this show already, but if you haven't, definitely worth paying your money for Disney+. This is a brilliant show, and it gets a 9 out of 10.
The Force is strong with you.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this review, go and smash that like button and hit that subscribe button, because I've got plenty more content coming your way. Next week I've got a movie review, so look forward to that next. But for now guys, stay safe, and that is me, out.
I'm ready.